This Tales of Innocence retrospective was brought to you by my lovely patron, Cameron Strauss. For as little as $3 Australian a month, you can get your name shouted out at the start of every Xenosanctum video, as well as access to bonus behind-the-scenes content. Link in the description below. Well, I've finally done it. With this game, I have now played every single Tales game ever created, not including remakes, or spin-offs, or mobile games. Darn it, let's just get into it and look back on 2007's Tales of Innocence for the Nintendo DS. It's no real understatement to say that Tales of the Tempest was quite the disaster when it came out in 2006. However, with all the time and money spent getting a Tales game to work on the DS, Bandai Namco was not about to let it all go to waste. Thus, with Tempest development sputtering out, Bandai Namco would task another third party with making a DS Tales game. However, this time they would get a third party with a bit more experience in making Tales games. Enter Alpha Systems. Founded in 1988, Alpha Systems originally got their start in the gaming industry making games exclusively for the TurboGrafx 16, before moving on to other systems in the late 90s. In 2002, they'd be tasked by Namco to make the GBA sequel to Wolf Team's Tales of Phantasia Narakiri Dungeon, in the form of Tales of the World Narakiri Dungeon 2. This would be followed up by Tales of the World Narakiri Dungeon 3 on the GBA, and later Tales of the World Radiant Mythology on the PSP, with the latter giving the team experience in making 3D Tales games. It was this experience that encouraged Bandai Namco to task the team with making the next DS Tales game. Alpha Systems' Tales game would be designed as a home console Tales game on the go, rather than a short compact adventure like Tempest. The team would also learn from Tempest's development shortfalls on the DS to streamline the development process. Like Tempest, the new game would keep the 3D visuals and would push the visuals even further with more detailed world and character models. Tales of Innocence would be chosen as the game's name, along with the characteristic genre of RPG to tie thoughts together. With a game built around the concept of innocence, the team designed characters who appeared weak and tepid compared to those of other Tales games. Designing these characters would prove to be a challenge for series veteran Mutsumi Inamada, as she was facing scheduling conflicts with the Namco Tales studio, who was developing their own Tales game on the DS. As a result, Inamada would design characters for both games at the same time, which what I can only imagine being an extremely difficult workload for her. Tales of Innocence would be unveiled in July 2007, alongside the PSP port of Tales of Rebirth, the Tales of Destiny PS2 Director's Cut, as well as Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World. That is a lot of games. Meanwhile today we're lucky if we even get a Tales mobile game announced at one of these events. Darn, Tales fans in the 2000s were so spoiled. Either way, Tales of Innocence would release on the 6th of December 2007 and would come out to positive reviews. Thus, it's a surprise that this game did not get an official localization. Despite not getting an official localization, Absolute Zero would once again step in to make a fan translation. Tales of Innocence would be the team's second Tales translation after the PS1 port of Tales of Phantasia, and would be completed on the 29th of June 2010. With the disaster that was Tales of the Tempest behind us, can Alpha Systems develop a proper DS Tales game? The story begins on a battlefield where we meet the demon lord Asura as he battles the forces of Ratio. Asura soon finds himself face to face with Ratio commander Hypnos, and the two begin battle. Asura emerges victorious, leaving a mortally wounded Hypnos to proclaim that their world of Devalgar will fall unless he is able to harvest the mortal souls of the world of Naraka. Asura assures him that he has a plan to unite the two worlds, and all will be well. Hypnos then declares that they will meet again in another life, and he will judge him then on the world he has created. The story then jumps to the house of Luca Milda, who's just been dreaming about all the past events. In fact, he dreams about Asura a lot in his sleep and wishes he could be more like him instead of the weak boy that he is. After enjoying a nice breakfast with his parents, Luca is then invited to play a game of football with his quote-unquote friends, who are more like bullies, who demand that Luca buy some hot dogs after losing the game badly. Luca then goes to grab hot dogs but runs into a red-haired girl and a pet mouse creature. After gobbling down one of Luca's hot dogs, the girl introduces herself as Iria Unami, and the mouse introduces itself as Koda. Iria suddenly notices two figures approaching and makes a run for it. Luca follows her and the two soon find themselves cornered by the two mystery figures who attempt to kidnap Iria. At this point, Luca is finally able to engage his inner spirit of Asura and finds himself with the strength to battle the would-be kidnappers. Defeating the two men, the two are forced to flee the town as they are now known avatars. Avatars are the reincarnations of powerful beings from Devaloka. Luca is the reincarnation of Asura, and Iria is the reincarnation of Inanna, Asura's lover. Fleeing town, the two decide to head to Naus, where another avatar supposedly lives. However, the two are ambushed and captured by a group of mysterious men who are able to disable their avatar powers. In prison, Luca and Iria meet two more avatars: Thito's Charmer, the reincarnation of Asura's attendant Sakuya, and Spada Belfoma, the reincarnation of Asura's sword Durandal. Luca, Iria and Spada are soon taken away for a combat test. Following the test, the three are sent off to the front lines of a war occurring between the major nations on the continent. Throughout the battle, Luca finds himself in battle with other avatars who hold a burning hatred to Asura due to their past lives. As a result, Iria begins to question why they are letting their past lives dictate their actions. Following a surprise attack by the enemy, the three are soon able to escape the battlefield and make their way towards Naus. The story then continues from there, and for the full story breakdown we once again have to go to our good old friend cutscene compilations. And now for the presentation. Playing Tales of Innocence, it's almost hard to believe that this game was on the same system as Tales of the Tempest, as Tales of Innocence is leagues better when it comes to its presentation. Character models, while still rather pixelated, are now much more detailed than their Tempest counterparts, and towns and dungeons are now much larger and more expansive. I also have to mention how smooth movement is in the game, despite it all being done on a D-pad. Tales of Innocence is very much a console game on the go, with classic features like contact encounters, which now has an added dimension of your characters being able to attack enemies on the overworld in order to cut their health down before a battle starts. Such a feature would not be seen again in a Tales game until Zestiria on the PS4 in 2015. Along with contact encounters, skits return in the Team Symphonia box style. In fact, skits have a new added dimension to them, with Luca often being able to choose his responses in multiple skits, which can affect his friendship score with the other characters. This can unlock additional skits as well as improve the team synergy in battle. Along with skits, Alpha Systems decides to bring their guild system over from Radiant Mythology. At guilds, the party can accept side quests to partake in. These side quests involve the cast visiting the town's local guild dungeon, in which the party must face randomly generated maps to complete specialised tasks for various rewards. These rewards often come in the form of grade, which is given out much more bountifully than in previous Tales games, with fights often giving out double figures of grade. Grade can be used to buy stuff back at the guild, including bonuses for a New Game Plus playthrough, in effect merging the series' classic grade shop into the guild shops. When it comes to the world design, Tales of Innocence decides to go for the unique aesthetic of the late 1800s/early 1900s when it comes to its world and characters. This is in contrast to previous Tales games whose worlds and characters often range from medieval to 1700s classical in appearances. This more modern aesthetic is contrasted with guns being a lot more present in the game compared with past entries. This in turn has also seen Tales of Innocence get a more mature rating compared to its predecessors, and in some respects represents the beginning of the series' slow transition into more mature orientated stories. Going over to the characters themselves, along with the trio of Luca, Iria and Spada, the group also finds and rescues the priestess Arn Serena, who is a reincarnation of the ratio tactician Orpheal, who defects to help Ashura. They are also able to recruit the mercenary marksman Ricardo. No, not that one. Ricardo Soldato turns out to be the reincarnation of none other than Hypnos, resulting in a tense relationship between him and Luca. Finally finishing off the cast is Hermana Lamo, an orphan of the war, but is also the reincarnation of Vertra, Ashura's giant dragon companion. The game also has a multiplayer mode, however due to complications it was taken out of the fan translation, and from what I heard it was kind of buggy, and didn't work very well. Regardless, Tales of Innocence pulls off an almost 3D console Tales game presentation, and Alpha System really deserves a lot of credit for pulling this seemingly impossible feat off, and we haven't even gone to the battle system yet. Tales of Innocence uses the Dimensional Stride Linear Motion Battle System, or DS-LMBS. Oh, I see what you did there. Like Tales of the Tempest, you are once again limited to a party of 3 characters. However, unlike Tempest, which delivered a semi-3D battle system by rehashing the 3-line system, instead, Tales of Innocence gives us a full 3D battle system in the same vein as Tales of Symphonia and Tales of the Abyss. Just like in Tales of the Abyss, you can again move freely in 3D space by using freerun. However, freerun is nowhere near as broken as it was in Tales of the Abyss, with it being somewhat sluggish to activate on the fly, leading to your character being hit a lot when trying to use it as an evasion technique. Speaking about evasion techniques, Tales of Innocence sees the front-stepping technique, first introduced in Tales of Destiny 2, finally make its first appearance in a 3D Tales game. However, unlike its previous incarnation as a defensive way to approach the enemy, this move is instead used to quickly get behind your opponents, allowing you to attack them in the back. Doing back attacks is useful as it's one of the best ways to stun your opponents and begin a combo. Comboing is a major focus of this game, with most of the characters having access to fast flurry attacks that can help run up the combo counter. Combos can be run even longer by knocking the enemy into the air using down on the D-pad while performing a regular attack. A lot of arts can also be used in the air as well, leading to some pretty solid aerial play in comparison to past Tales games, as characters can now perform mid-air combos. Taking advantage of the aerial play and other combo extending techniques will allow you to build up your tension gauge. When this gauge is full, you will enter an awakened state and receive massive boosts to your character's stats. Once awakened, the tension gauge will slowly deplete until you run out, in which your character will revert back to normal. However, if you can keep your combo game going, you can continue to refill the gauge as it depletes, keeping your character in their awakened state. While in an awakened state, you will also have the opportunity to activate Infinite Jam, which works in a similar fashion to Unison attacks from Symphonia, in which you will cycle through your party, laying in as many combos as you can until the tension gauge runs out. You can also use the awakened state to unleash your Mystic Arts as well. Like other Tales games, as you win battles, you'll naturally level up and become stronger. However, Tales of Innocence puts a lot of its growth focus into its unique styles system. Characters will have the choice between multiple styles that focus on maximising damage to being highly mobile. As you progress through battles, you will level up your character's equipped styles, and in doing so will grow the stats associated with that style. You also unlock skills associated with that style that can then be equipped to your character to use in battle. While I have been using Tales of Symphonia and Tales of the Abyss as comparisons for this game's combat, in reality the game's battle system is a variation on that seen in Tales of the World Radiant Mythology, with a lot of the monsters and characters' movesets being lifted straight from that game. As a result, the characters in this game feel very much like copies of the different player avatar characters in Radiant Mythology, with the exception of the spellcasting classes. Tales of Innocence takes a rather unusual approach to spells by giving all the characters access to different spells from different elements, rather than putting all of them into one or two mage characters. For his moveset, Luca uses his oversized sword to hit enemies hard yet surprisingly fast, in a similar manner to Vague from Tales of Rebirth. Unlike Vague, however, Luca is a fire specialist, having access to the game's fire spells, thus joining the elite club of Tales protagonists with casting abilities. Iria meanwhile brings us our first ever playable gunslinger, using her twin pistols. These pistols give Iria a sizable rate of fire, and I found it very good at helping other characters keep combos going. She also casts water spells, as well as a handful of healing arts. Spider meanwhile revives Lloyd's twin saber playstyle and is able to dish out rapid blows in combat. This made Spider very easy to combo with, and I often ended up playing him more than I did Luca. Arts wise, Spider's a similar host of arts to Luca, along with the game's wind spells. If Ruti was a healer who looked like a thief, then Anja's a thief who looks like a healer. Using her knife, Anja's able to rapidly attack the enemy as well as steal their items with select skills. She also, like Iria, has access to the healing spells as well as the game's light spells. Ricardo is a bit of a mix of the different characters. Despite using a rifle, a lot of his attacks and skills are melee, resulting in a rather complex playstyle that I struggled to get used to. He also uses the game's dark and earth spells. Finishing up the cast is Hermana, who's an even more extreme version of Sparta, having arguably the fastest attack rate in the group using her fists. She can also use spells from every element but does not get access to them until later in the game. Arguably the most unique feature in this game's battle system is the fact that enemies will drop their collectible items and money on the ground once defeated. This requires a player to collect the items before they disappear. While an interesting idea, the novelty does wear off after a while as you're forced to pick up all the gold after every fight. Picking up items is also made more annoying, with R being mapped to freerun and target toggle, with the L button being used to quickly toggle the player character. While a quick party toggle is a nice idea, the Tales battle system is built around very tense one-on-one battles. Thus it's kind of pointless to build your Tales battle system around the quick changing of characters. But wait, am I still talking about Tales of Innocence here? Let's go over to the music. Tales of Innocence joins Tales of Legendia as being one of the only Tales games in the series not to be composed by Motoi Sakuruba. This time we have Kazuhiro Nakamura composing the soundtrack to the game, along with Taisuke Sawachika. Nakamura had previously worked on Bandai Namco's Time Crisis and Tekken series and was a well-experienced composer. Unlike Goshina's Tales of Legendia score, Nakamura would deliver a soundtrack that was much more in line with the series' previous soundtracks. This similarity is especially true for the battle themes like Breakthrough with the Sword, which were composed using Sakuruba's previous battle themes as a reference. While the game's soundtrack is pretty solid, it's not exactly a huge improvement of what we've heard in Tempest. What is a massive improvement is the incorporation of voice acting into the game's major cutscenes. Getting 4 lines of dialogue to work on the DS was no small feat, and the team was only able to pull it off thanks to a third party's compression technique, which allowed for 120 minutes of voice lines to fit on the DS card, while only taking up 125 megabytes of space.
天術はこの地上ではない天上に住む神々の持っていた力
Along with the 120 minutes of voice acting, Alpha Systems was also able to put in a proper anime intro at the start of the game. Tales of Innocence's opening song, Follow the Nightingale, would be performed by the singer Kokia. Now if there was a reward for the Tales game that had grown on me the most, then this song would be the winner. I used to hate this song for its weird tribal chant and strange pace, but it has since grown on me and is now one of my favourite ones to listen to. Production IG is also once again back to animate the opening, and it was this anime opening that was one of the main reasons I really got to like the song, as it is really well timed to the music even if the final product is kinda short. I must express again how shocked I am that this game and Tales of the Tempest are on the same system, as Tales of Innocence almost looks a generation more advanced in both visuals and gameplay. Tales of Innocence truly is a console Tales game made portable, and I might even say that I enjoyed it more than some of the other 6th gen console games. A lot of this comes down to the general uniqueness of the game. Item pickups and guild quests as well as the style system are all very unique mechanics that we haven't really seen in the Namco Tales Studio games. While I have for the most part been gushing praise all over this game, I do have some major reservations about the game, a lot of which stems from the game being on the DS. Now let's get one thing clear, I have no issues with the low quality models used in this game. The game is on the DS and this is arguably the best they could possibly do. No, the issue I have is with the game's contact encounters. Due to the limited power of the DS, enemies only seem to get rendered when they are extremely close to you, making avoiding them almost impossible. In fact, some enemies will spawn right on top of you, often triggering back attacks in which you can't run. Combine this with enemy encounters that can range from one of the dungeon's weakest monsters to 3 of its strongest, and you have one of the most annoying systems that can wipe your party out at a moment's notice and send you back miles due to the overly long dungeons with few save points. Speaking about too overdrawn dungeons, the game feels unnecessarily padded in places. Not only are the dungeons really long, but the game is also quite grindy, with my party often feeling very underleveled, despite me nowhere near rushing the game. In some respects, this is designed to make you use the guild system more, which has its own issues, with guild dungeons often being located quite far from the town, where quests are assigned, leading to them being a massive time sink to complete. Despite my issues with Tales of Innocence, I think that Alpha Systems deserves a lot of credit for making such a game work on the DS. It's kind of a shame that Alpha Systems didn't really make any more mainline Tales games, as following this game they would only be called on to do 2 more Radiant Mythology games before parting ways from Bandai Namco. Perhaps if they stayed on, they could have helped not make our next Tales game a total disaster. Yes, it's now time to review arguably the most infamous Tales game ever made, so join me next time as I look back on Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New Cash Grab, world.